There's a woman who spent 14 years in a high-paying career, invested aggressively, never missed a year, and built a portfolio of about $600,000 by age 41. Then she quit and took a job that pays $42,000. Her coworkers said she was throwing her prime earning years away. Her friends assumed something must be wrong. Her family kept asking, "Are you sure you're okay?" But here's what nobody understood. She didn't need the salary anymore. Even if she never invested another dollar, that $600,000, given enough time, would compound into retirement money on its own. The plan was already running. She just stopped feeding it extra fuel. Then there's the opposite story. A guy I've met, early 50s, earns over $300,000 a year, has more than $1 million invested, and still works like he's behind. He keeps saying the same thing. Once I hit my number, then I'll relax. Except the math says he's already past the hard part. If he stopped contributing today, his portfolio would still grow into the number he's chasing within the same retirement window, without him doing anything. He's grinding for a milestone he's already on track to exceed. Both of these people crossed an invisible line, a line most investors don't even know exists. It's the point where your contributions stop being the main character in your wealth story, and compounding takes over so much that adding more money becomes less important than time. That's the exact moment we're talking about. Today, I'm going to show you the exact mathematical moment your retirement stops depending on your next contribution. The moment where, if you never invested another dollar, the numbers still say you hit your target on time, because compounding does more work than you ever could. I'm going to give you the simple formula to calculate it for your situation so you can see whether you're still in the paycheck is the engine phase or whether you've already crossed that line and just don't know it yet. By the way, I built a free calculator that runs this correctly because a lot of online ones use sloppy assumptions and hide the real weak points in your plan. It generates a report, and I only ask for your email to send it, so I don't store your financial inputs or keep your data sitting on a server somewhere. Links in the description. Here's the core idea. Your wealth gets built by two engines. Engine 1 is your contributions, what you manually add every month into your 401k, IRA, or brokerage account. This is the part that feels like progress because it comes from you, your discipline, your paycheck, your sacrifice. Engine 2 is compounding, your portfolio growing on itself. Early on, contributions are doing almost all the work. Compounding is basically background noise. You can have $15,000 invested, and a good year gives you maybe $1,000. That's nice, but it doesn't move the needle compared to what you're adding. But these two engines don't stay balanced. One stays limited by your income and your budget. The other scales. As the portfolio gets bigger, the growth gets bigger, and eventually it reaches a point where the compounding engine is generating more dollars per year than you can realistically contribute. That's when the entire game changes. There are two milestones here, and people mix them up, so let's separate them cleanly. The first one is the crossover point. That's the moment your portfolio's annual growth becomes larger than your annual contributions. In plain English, your money starts adding more money than you do. It's a psychological shift because you finally feel like the engine isn't just your paycheck anymore. But that doesn't mean you're done. The second milestone is what I call Coast FI, the true I no longer need to invest for retirement moment. That's the amount you need invested today so that even if you contribute zero from this point forward, no 401k, no IRA, nothing, your portfolio still compounds into your retirement target by the age you choose. Crossover is when compounding becomes louder than your contributions. Coast FI is when contributions become optional. Let me make this concrete with a simple ladder of numbers. Assume you're contributing $20,000 a year and you earn a long-run 7% annual return. Not a fantasy number, just a reasonable, historically grounded average. At $100,000 invested, 7% growth is $7,000. Your contribution is still doing most of the work. You're still pushing the car. At $300,000, 7% is $21,000. Now you're basically even. The portfolio is starting to pull its weight. At $500,000, 7% is $35,000. Now the growth is clearly doing more than you are. Compounding is the primary engine. At $1 million, 7% is $70,000. At that point, your $20,000 contribution isn't nothing, but compared to what the portfolio produces, it's not the headline anymore. That's the dominance shift. And once you see it, the next question becomes unavoidable. What happens if you stop contributing at different checkpoints? So run this thought experiment with the same assumptions and a target of $1 million. If you invest the full way, you hit the goal on the normal timeline. But if you stop early, like at $100,000, you're asking a small portfolio to do a big job. Compounding isn't strong enough yet, so you add a huge amount of time. If you stop around $300,000, you've built real momentum. The delay is smaller because the portfolio can actually start carrying. And if you stop at $500,000, the delay becomes surprisingly tiny because the money is already doing most of the work. You're not starting over, you're just letting the engine run without adding fuel. And here's the punchline that breaks people's intuition. Halfway to your goal in dollars is not halfway in time. The second half happens faster because growth accelerates as the base gets larger. Once compounding takes the lead, your timeline becomes less dependent on how hard you push. Now let's do the part that actually matters, the formula. Because once you can calculate it, you stop guessing, you stop relying on vibes, you see the line. Step 1, pick your retirement spending number. Let's say you want $70,000 per year in retirement. Step 2, subtract income you expect that doesn't require selling your investments. That could be Social Security, a pension, rental income, whatever applies to you. Let's use $25,000 from Social Security as an example. So your portfolio needs to cover the difference. $70,000 minus $25,000 equals $45,000. Now you convert that into a target portfolio using the 4% rule. If you need $45,000 per year from investments, you divide by 0.04. $45,000 divided by 0.04 equals $1,125,000. That's your target. That's the number you're trying to reach by retirement. Now, here's the part most people never do correctly. Step 4, reverse the compounding to find your coast number, the amount you need invested today so that you can stop contributing and still hit that target by the age you choose. The formula is target portfolio divided by 1 plus real return to the years until retirement. Real return means after inflation, so if you think markets return 8% nominal and inflation averages 3%, your real return is about 5%. If you're 35 and want to retire at 65, that's 30 years. So you calculate $1,125,000 divided by 1.05 to the 30th. That comes out to roughly $260,000.
Meaning, if you're 35 and you have about $260,000 invested, you could stop contributing entirely and still be on track to hit your retirement target by 65, because the clock and compounding do the heavy lifting from there. Meet Farhana. She's 38, works as a software engineer, and earns $130,000 a year. She's been investing 15% of her gross income since she was 25, about $19,500 a year for 13 years. Her portfolio is now sitting at $420,000. Farhana wants to retire at 60, that's 22 years from now. She wants to spend $60,000 a year in retirement. Let's assume $22,000 will come from Social Security. so her portfolio needs to generate $38,000 per year. Using the 4% rule, that means her target portfolio is 38,000 divided by 0.04 equals $950,000. Now her coast number, 950,000 divided by 1.05 to the 22nd power. That comes out to roughly $325,000. Farhana has $420,000. Her coast number is 325,000. She's already passed it, by a lot. What does this mean? It means if Farhana got laid off tomorrow and took a job that pays $45,000 a year just for stability, health insurance, and sanity, her retirement is still on track. She doesn't need to invest another dollar. That $420,000 can compound into roughly $1.2 million by 60, even if she never adds a dime again. That's not a vibe, that's the math working in the background. But here's the part nobody warns you about. Reaching your coast number can create a psychological trap. I call it the just one more year problem. You hit the point where you don't need to keep grinding for retirement, but you're so trained to optimize, so trained to push, that you keep doing it anyway. You tell yourself, one more year at this income and I'll have a bigger cushion. Then it becomes, okay, just 2 more years. Then it becomes, let me get to a nice round number. And the logic isn't wrong. More money does create more buffer. The problem is what happens next. You get used to the bigger paycheck. You start spending like that paycheck is permanent. You upgrade the apartment. You buy the nicer car. You normalize expensive habits. And suddenly your freedom disappears because your lifestyle expanded to eat it. Your coast number doesn't stay still when your spending rises. It moves. And this is how people with serious portfolios end up feeling broke. They've built a life that costs so much that even financial independence doesn't feel independent. To be fair, there's a real counterpoint here. Some people genuinely love what they do. Some people want to build something big. Some people care about legacy, impact, or simply enjoy the game. If that's you, great. Keep going. Just make sure you're continuing because you want to, not because you're trapped in fear, status, or momentum. Because there's a huge difference between choosing the grind and forgetting you had a choice. Here's a quick parable that explains what this is really about. A highly successful professional meets someone living a simpler life and asks, why aren't you trying to scale this? You could make more, you could grow faster, you could optimize everything. And the person says, for what? The professional lays out the whole plan. Work harder now, earn more, invest more, build a bigger machine so one day you can finally relax. And the person responds, I already have what you're trying to buy. Now, I'm not saying don't build wealth. I'm not romanticizing struggle. Most of us live in a world where money matters, safety matters, and inflation is real. But the principle is the point. At a certain level, more money doesn't automatically create more freedom. Sometimes it just creates more complexity, more pressure, more stuff to maintain. Your coast number is the mathematical proof of enough. It's the moment the machine you built can carry you even if you stop feeding it. So here's the framework. Rule 1, calculate your coast number once a year. Not every week, not obsessively, just check the math annually and know where you stand. Rule 2, stop tying your identity to your income. Your paycheck is not your personality. Coast FI doesn't make you less. It just means the financial outcome is no longer dependent on you sprinting forever. Rule 3, design your life in chapters. Before Coast, your job is to build the machine. After Coast, your job is to decide what the machine is for. More time, more impact, more security, or more freedom. But if you don't choose deliberately, inertia will choose for you. So don't sleepwalk through the best part of the journey. Know your crossover point, know your coast number, and when you hit it, make a conscious decision about what comes next. Drop a comment with where you're at. $10,000, $100,000, crossover, or coast. I want to see the milestones. And if you want the free calculator that runs the math correctly, The link's in the description.